Fortnite has often been lauded for its update rate and has been considered the Jones for which all other video game developers strive to keep up with, but at what cost? Since Epic shifted employees from other games like Paragon in order to support Fortnite Battle Royale and have gone on hiring sprees, I wrongly assume that this cadence of content is due to having a massive staff. Polygon, however, just released an expose article on how Fortnite developers are working in a constant crunch period due to the live service nature of the game, and the fact that it is still technically in beta means that they can release updates without going through the third-party verification that most other game developers do, which is an artificial slowing of the patch rate. The article linked in the description basically lays out that a Fortnite developer, who actually are not employees but freelancers at a 6 or 12-month contract basis without having to give their workers the benefits that most should enjoy since they're not actually employees but contractors instead, typically work extreme weekly hours in the 70 to 100 range with a passive coercion in the form of a looming threat of either not renewing their contract or in other cases being outright dismissed for not making their insane deadlines. All the specifics are outlined in the article, and I suggest that you read the entire thing yourself, but the work environment there does not seem to be a good place to be, even with the supposed amenities that are offered, like unlimited time off or a gym at the office, because they're never even actually used due to the thinly veiled mandated work ethic standard. This constant crunch period to make updates on a weekly cadence just burns out employees, and as Jim Sterling so eloquently says, crunch is not a triumph of the workforce, it's a failure of the management. Throughout the article, it highlights that the executives and management teams want things to be fixed immediately, even in spite of already greenlit content, always want faster turnout of problem tickets, and this just isn't possible with the staff that they have unless they work longer hours. To the credit of Epic Games, they have tried things like elongating update rates to every other week, which really doesn't do anything if you still try and cram in twice as much content, and attempting to hire more people, which doesn't fix things right away because you have to train and onboard all of these new people, plus there are constraints even with office space and other logistics that Epic seems to be unwilling to throw their obscene amount of revenue generated from cosmetic purchases at. The central premise that management is operating under of constantly pushing out updates in order to keep the game fresh being the main reason why Fortnite is immensely popular ignores the other major factors surrounding how the Battle Royale genre as a whole exploded in the first place and Fortnite sort of got in on the ground floor, how its art design and direction makes it more appealing to a more vast variety of players, how it has cross-platform capabilities so that people can play with their friends without limitations, and many more factors. You could just look at this chart here with Twitch viewership, and you could see that while Fortnite took a slight hit when Apex Legends came out in February, it steadily increased its numbers, while Apex Legends, who has said that they will not make frequent updates, but instead more pointed ones to get it right the first time, has steadily declined and is now trailing Fortnite in viewership hours in March. One could surmise that the reason for this is because Fortnite is constantly adding new beepity bops into the game, while Apex Legends is not, and that's why people are coming back. But remember the first rule of statistics: correlation does not equal causation. Yes, it's somewhat true that when games receive content updates, more people are going to play it in order to try out the shiny new toy. However, this retention problem in this particular instance has more to do with Apex Legends not providing an incentive to keep coming back other than the nature of a Battle Royale game itself, versus Fortnite or even other games like Battlefield 5 do, with new limited time game modes or sets of challenges to complete that change every week or even every day. Although in the latter case, I'd like to not have to back out to the main fucking menu in order to change my assignments or even receive the rewards for said assignments. They should just be accessible without having to leave the match. But anyways, new tasks aren't new content that has to go through the rigors of the development cycle. It's just new ways to math, which any studio should be competent at. In addition, constantly updating the game may also have the adverse effect of driving away players because they don't like the new game mechanics that have been introduced into the game, or if they take some time away, that the game is completely different than the experience that they remember it being, so they stop playing. It's a double-edged sword. Overworking your employees results in having long-term negatives even for short-term gains. Recently, Fortnite has had to push out more and more hotfixes in between patches due to bugs or errors with the latest updates, which I jokingly refer to as 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. Studies have shown that after working more than 50 or 60 hours in a week, you negatively impact your ability to perform tasks, which leads to not only diminishing returns, but increases likelihood of introducing problems into your work, which is evident in this case based on the increased number of tickets being open and a higher hotfix rate now than in prior seasons, not to mention the overall negative reception of the past 2 seasons compared with season 6 and before. More new content isn't necessarily better, it's just more. Think about the sheer number of things that have been added to the game that were just bad fucking ideas, but they were implemented because they were something new and shiny to play with. Planes, ballers, shopping carts, golf carts, quad crusher, boombo, flintlock pistol, scope pistols, infantry rifles, dynamite, dynamite, boomboxes, stink bombs, portable building devices, LMGs, drum gun, bottle rockets, turrets, chillers, sneaky snowmen, quad launchers, C4 infinity blades, different variants of ARs and SMGs. All of this shit either made the game worse or just didn't move the needle in any direction whatsoever. I'm all for adding seasonal or limited time items, but most of these aren't. They're just failed concepts. Fortnite already has the advantage of being a battle royale game, which is addicting by the very nature of its game mechanics, and has a battle pass with its challenge system unlocking new tasks to complete every week. Hell, there are even daily and limited time mode challenges on top of that, and skin challenges too. There's a dizzying amount of things to check off on a list that you could do in this fucking game. Those should be enough to keep people coming back to the game and being satisfied, right? Could we blame us, the consumers, for demanding that Epic strives for this unattainable standard, similar to what happened on YouTube with prank videos that resulted in people faking them just to outdo their competition? The answer is sort of. Yes, increasing demand is obviously what partially led to these employees working stupidly long hours, and part of the reason why gamers want more content is because of how the industry as a whole is shifting its focus from producing games to making live services. Part of the problem with this change is that publishers have gotten away with shipping empty husks of games with the mostly broken promises that they will be continually updated. Thus, every single game now has a fucking roadmap as a reassurance to gamers that it's worth your monetary investment, right fucking meow. When you're basically selling people an IOU instead of a full functioning game, people will get bored of shit quickly when they're as shallow as a puddle of piss on the ground. Fortnite Battle Royale shipped as a mostly full offering. Sure, there weren't all of the features that it has now, like creative, arena, etc., but compared to the likes of Anthem, Battlefield 5, Red Dead Online, Fallout 76, and countless other live services, it was a complete offering that doesn't necessitate fulfilling these types of promises with constant changes. In the case of Battlefield 5, even though I do like their weekly challenges and rewards along with bringing in new game modes like Rush and Grind, their Tides of War live service buzzword has thus far been an absolute fucking disaster. Features that were promised during the reveal were either delayed or scrapped altogether in case of soldier dragging, and the ones that were actually delivered were half-assed at best, like the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious co-op combined arms game mode, and even the Battle Royale offering Firestorm, which still has issues with looting dead players and inventory management, which are two of the most important aspects of a fucking Battle Royale game, along with the fact that a second multiplayer map won't be available until the end of May at its earliest, and the one map that dropped after launch way back in December is only available in a subset of the game modes, which means people get bored of playing the same shit for months on end. The gamer that demands more maps and content in games has more to do with the fact that the game itself is an empty vessel that also just happens to be riddled with bugs on launch that definitely took resources away from making new shit if you have to fix the broken shit. This isn't the case with Fortnite though. Sure, there are bugs, but when you don't have this dynamic of trying to make a game worth the price paid by consumers, you could focus on those issues instead of constantly cranking out new content in order to fill it. This increased demand on new content isn't necessarily an across-the-board mandate on all games per se, it's just the ones that fit the mold of shipping a shell instead of a game, and it's a consequence of this new live service buzzword design philosophy. Not all new content is created equal either. New cosmetic items like skins and other things to play dress up with in a shooter don't require the same amount of development scrutiny as new gameplay impacting items. They both require some graphics work because of assets and animations, but there are much less underlying balance decisions or bugs and considerations that come out of cosmetic items versus new items that directly affect how the game works. Yet, both are reasons why people come back to the game and increase gamer retention since people check out the item shop daily as well as coming back to use the new shiny toy. So if you're really concerned about keeping people interested in your game, give some of those developers a break and concentrate on the things that don't require as much work to do. Given the demographics of Fortnite, it's possible that the short attention span of tweens requires more updating, even though I outlined that this could be a false conclusion, but riding your employees into the ground isn't the solution to the problem of increased demand. It should be increased supply, and so far, the culture at Epic has tried to wring out as much as it can from the people it has without an investment in either new people or new ways of doing business. Instead of trying to lure games to be sold on the Epic Games Store launcher by basically buying them off, they should instead invest in their own own fucking developers to make them happy instead of being overworked, miserable cunts, or hire more people and trainers if they really want to practice what they preach when they talk about increased revenue share helping out developers, when we all fucking know that it's just going to help out the people at the top, not the grunts doing the actual goddamn work. Epic has made a ludicrous amount of money with its cosmetic sales, and due to corporate avarice, is destroying their own workers, trying to keep the status quo because of implicit threats of management telling people, hey, cancel your weekend plans, or hanging their looming contract status over their heads when it comes time for their evaluations. As somebody that is a software developer myself, I've been victim to crunch as well, and when I've worked more than 50 hours in a week on a project, I've injected error into code because I'd been nonstop go, go, go. I didn't know what issues I did or did not fix, so that I couldn't document it to my tester. I wasn't sure what design I had landed on for that one piece of code that caused an interaction with some other piece of code, and then what happens next is the puzzle pieces don't line up, so to speak. Had project management either given me more resources to work with regarding assigning another person to work with on my design or helping me debug, or perhaps setting realistic expectations for when software could be delivered, the crunch situation would have been avoided altogether. It's the job of the project manager to set the realistic expectations on how long things will take based on prior history and what is the staff needed to complete something. Most developers are going to overcommit because they don't think about the software iteration cycle, where most things will almost always not work the first time out of the box and needs additional tests and additional rework, possibly additional redesign work before it's deemed acceptable. And that's why it's management's fault for necessitating a crunch, especially when they're actively discouraging people to not take any time off and continue to work on your project until it's completed, and forcing unrealistic due dates. It's not because the developers aren't working hard enough or aren't doing their fucking job. One of my friends was in a similar permalance situation where she worked for a company not as a full-time employee because the corporations in that field all raced to the bottom, so to speak, in terms of working conditions for that particular field. It wasn't until employees across different companies banded together to form a union that they were able to overcome the stranglehold that was their corporate overlords. The same thing needs to happen in the gaming industry because these types of practices are unsustainable. Something has to give. Epic has made more than enough money off of the back of these developers. It's time to invest in their health by removing the crunch. Anyways, what do you think about the article? Is it the fault of gamers for demanding too high a standard, the developers for not fixing things or adding things in fast enough, or is it Epic Games' management, or should I say mismanagement, to blame for the working conditions? You know where I stand. It's the last one. I've been DOS27 out like the Maple Leafs. I wonder how Tavares feels now. Until next time.